Hey guys, so I've got some disappointing news. So the next phase was going to be that I was going to put an AFE Power Momentum HD intake kit on this EcoDiesel. You know, I did the MBRP exhaust in the last video. I was going to do the intake in this video, and it was going to be neat. You know, I was really looking forward to reviewing that for you guys, and I'm still going to do it. The bad news is that I have no idea when that's going to happen. I've already been waiting for 4 weeks for that AFE intake to be delivered, and when I checked just the other day, they told me it's looking like an additional 12 weeks. So I've been waiting for a month. I've got 3 more months, and who knows, at that point they could say 8 more weeks. You never know. So for some reason, you just can't get your hands on one of those AFE intakes right now for the EcoDiesel engine. So that's still going to happen eventually, I think, but it's on indefinite delay right now. So in the meantime, I've kind of been messing around with the factory intake, just trying to see what makes it tick, and found some interesting things here. So if you haven't had the opportunity to take apart one of these factory intakes, it's kind of interesting what they've done here. Now obviously the Jeep is geared toward off-road use. And you can tell when you look at this intake versus the one that you'll find on, say, a Ram 1500, for example. They have really gone out of their way to keep water and snow and sand and dirt and stuff out of the intake system on these. So from the factory, I've already disassembled some of this, but from the factory, you've got this big rubber snorkel that slides down on there, and you can see how it's molded. And the idea is that it fits up in here and seals off. The camera's not focusing, but it seals off against the hood. So when you close the hood, it seals off on top of this little mini snorkel here. And so the lip of the hood here, of course, rests along this body line. And so you've got just a little bitty sliver right through here where air can go up in there and get into the air intake. So it's extremely choked down. I mean, this thing is gasping for air. It's like breathing through a straw. And then you've got this little mini snorkel that goes down in there and then comes back up into the air filter. In addition to that, the air filter that's in this thing, I took it apart the other day and checked it. It looks kind of like a traditional paper filter, but it's got a foam pre-filter glued to the bottom of that. So it's kind of like a dual filtration system. So they've really got this thing designed so that it's hard for water, snow, sand to splash up into the air filter, which if you're off-road is a good thing. I mean, obviously you don't want any of that crap getting in your air intake. You know, I've seen what happens out on the trail when you hydro lock an engine, and it is not good. So if you are going to be bashing through the woods or out in the desert, you know, or whatever the case might be, if you're doing some hardcore off-roading, you know, this factory design is good because it's better to have less airflow and protect your engine, you know, than to have more airflow and less protection. But 99% of people probably don't do that. In fact, I think that when Jeep did a survey the last time that I was looking at this, they actually did a poll, a survey, did some market research. They found that only 5% of people who buy a Jeep really do extreme hardcore off-roading with it. So this is really not an ideal setup for most people, myself included. I want more airflow. You know, I'd like to have a little bit more power, a little bit more flow. In addition to that, when you get over here to this section of the system, you've got all these ripples. You know, the ripples you see on the outside, well, they're present on the inside of this intake tube also. So there's some turbulence in the airflow. This section here is like a giant resonator. It's actually not that wide. When you look through it, it's much narrower. It necks down on the inside, and there's a lot of perforations and holes. When you look inside this section here, it kind of looks like a glass pack muffler with all those perforations and holes in there. And the idea there is to cancel out the noise, you know, to meet those NVH targets that they're looking for when they design these things. So there's some turbulence also. And of course, you know, you're almost 4 inches up here, and it necks down to 3 inches up there. at the turbo inlet, and you know, really there's not a lot you can do about that. But the bottom line is this intake from the factory is really good at keeping stuff out of your engine that you don't want going into your engine. You know, it's good for protecting the engine, but it's terrible for airflow. So I was looking at this to try and see if I could maybe make something. You know, I've seen guys use the black colored CPVC pipe and some rubber fittings and actually make cold air intake kits. But the problem is, I mean, you can see the sensor here, sort of like a MAF sensor made into the air box. And of course this would stay here, so that's not a problem. Where you would begin to modify this is from here up. So not a problem here. But back here, you've got an additional sensor right there. And that one's a little bit of an issue because you've got this tube and then the sensor in line and then more tube. And obviously you can see the two clamps there. So you would have to make some kind of a provision for this, you know, this little extension here that comes off of the main tube. You'd have to make some kind of provision for that so that you could maintain that sensor. And I mean, it can be done, but that would be a little bit trickier. So, you know, building something here for the main tube wouldn't be a big deal. It's just making your proper provisions for the sensors. So, I mean, there's a little bit of legwork involved, some design, and, you know, trying to fab something up, and probably would take 2 or 3 trips to the hardware store to get what you needed. But I'm considering maybe making something at least as a temporary solution just to see, you know, what it would do. Because I'm kind of curious, you know, if you take this crap off of here and open this thing up and let it breathe to complement that catback exhaust, would it make any seat of the pants difference? Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Would it make any fuel economy difference? Again, I don't know. We'd have to try it and see. But anyway, that's what's up with the factory intake system. Again, not a terrible design if you're going to be off-road a lot, but if you're not going to be off-road a lot, then there's a lot of room for improvement here. So I apologize for the delay. You know, I was really looking forward to doing that video, but it's going to unfortunately take a while, and sometimes that's how it goes. You know, ever since this COVID thing happened last year, it's just thrown everything into chaos. And so, you know, goods and services and products, and, you know, it's just really off schedule. Everything is off schedule. So who knows, you know, I don't know what the deal is. Well, I don't know why it's so hard to build a plastic air intake kit, but then again, you know, there's a lot going on in the world right now. So if I get something built here, I'll show it to you, show you what I came up with. But for the meantime, that's going to be it for this phase of the build, and trying to decide where to go next from here. I got it ready to haul and tow, and put a little bit of a lift kit and some tires on it, which work out really good. I'll show you that here in just a minute. I was playing around at the river the other day just to see how it was going to do. And now I'm working on a little bit of performance, not really hardcore stuff yet, but just a little bit of a performance bump here, and I've run into a snag. So where do we go from here? Maybe start adding some things that could be useful, like bumper, winch, stuff like that. I don't know, we'll see. But for now, it's gonna be it. You guys enjoy Independence Day weekend. The weather here in Kentucky is beautiful. Hopefully it's pretty where you're at as well. Get out there and enjoy it, guys. We'll talk to you later. It's a beautiful night out here, so I thought we'd come down to the river and get off-road, make sure the transfer case works and all that. I've never even had this thing in low range yet, but good opportunity to try it out. Get these Yokohama mud terrains in some water and some mud down here. Just kind of shake it out a little bit and see what it feels like. Gosh, the water's awfully muddy right now. Of course, the good thing about it is it's June, middle of summer, heat index is 100. Haven't had any rain for a while, so the water's really low. Usually it'd be pretty deep, but it's kind of shallow right now, so I can probably go back here pretty far. Just play around a little bit. I'll tell you one thing I'm noticing about this EcoDiesel right off the bat. You know, I've got it in low range, of course, and It's running in second gear right now, but I'm not even touching the gas pedal, or the diesel pedal, I guess. I'm not even touching it. I mean, this thing's got so much low-end torque that it's just pulling itself along. It'll, you know, I've been going over top of rocks, and there's another big rock right there, and it just keeps on chugging along. You can definitely feel that low-end diesel torque and low range. I mean, this thing, you know, if you did do rock crawling, which I don't, but if you did do some rock crawling and some pretty hardcore stuff, this diesel engine would be really sweet. I mean, it would be nice. You know, like if I lived out in Moab or somewhere out there where I could crawl around, I would really appreciate this diesel. It's nice. Everybody talks about how terrible the departure angle is on these Gladiators. I don't think it's all that bad. I've actually scraped the receiver hitch on my Wrangler right there before, and I just came down it in the Gladiator. I took a little bit of a different line, but I just came down it in the Gladiator and I didn't scrape at all. So it's not terrible. And these tires are doing a really good job so far. Of course, we haven't really got in any sticky mud yet, but they're gripping really well out here. All right, so that time I came back up it and I actually heard the splash guard rub the ground. So that just goes to show you how steep that actually is. Splash guard was scraping, but the receiver hitch just barely touched coming back up. So again, not too bad really. I'm kind of impressed. All right, there's a little bit of a hill here. Gotta watch out for all this junk that's laying around from the flood, but I'm gonna see if I can climb up this. It's really kind of loose material. It's not real soupy or anything, it's just loose material. Let's see what happens if I try to climb up this. Yeah, it's digging in. Back tires are spinning. I'm going to have to back down and try a little bit of a different line here. Alright. Let's try it now. Not a problem. So what happened that time was the what they call the brake lock differentials. You know, I gave it enough throttle that time that those kicked in, and it sort of acts like a limited slip. Of course, this Jeep, being a diesel, has the track lock axle standard. I got to watch out what I'm doing here because sometimes these hills crest over into giant mud pits. Doesn't look like this one does, but some of them do. Yeah, I think I'm good here. But anyway, and once that kicked in, it just climbed right up pretty good. Again, Yokohamas are really digging in and doing a great job. They're not really packing up with material, which is, you know, of course what you want from a mud terrain tire. Well, I say that, but this rear one did pack up just a little bit. Got some material in it. I think this is the one that was spinning a little bit. I mean, if you give it even more throttle than what I'm doing, they'll clean out pretty well. But you can see some of these mud pits you can fall into out here, and I'm by myself and I don't have a winch, so that's why I'm taking it kind of easy. I just wanted to kind of get a feel for these tires, you know, and just kind of see what they would do out here. And so far I'm impressed. Did a good job. The Jeep, of course, doing a great job. So fun times. I got to get a winch and come down here with some friends one of these days so we can get a little bit more serious. Sometimes it's easier to just go back to the river and follow the river back down. So I'm gonna do that on the way back out. It's actually kind of beautiful out here tonight though. You know, like I said, the water level's kind of down from where it normally is. Sometimes it'll come up to the doors on the Jeep, but it's staying below the doors today. Just a pretty area. I think all the bugs on the windshield are keeping my camera from focusing. So I apologize for the crappy video, but doing the best I can do as a one-man band here. So yeah, like I said, just a real pretty area. I like to come down here and just hang out sometimes. So I'm gonna head on out, go back to town, hit the Dairy Queen on the way home, and we'll shoot another video pretty soon when the next phase of the great all-around Jeep Gladiator build is ready to go. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you later.